Coach, how has Sam adapted to the big game first in quarterback, and what have you seen his progression been since then in terms of leadership and ability?
Well, going back all the way through to the spring, I think Sam and Jace and Kate at the time did a good job of learning the system, and that was the challenge in the spring. It was a different atmosphere when they got back here in the fall, so they had done a good job from a leadership standpoint of running a lot of our player-led practices and making sure that what needed to get accomplished in the summer got accomplished. So when we got here in August, really the offense was learned, and it was a matter of the three of them now competing. So I think Jace and Sam have done a good job of leading when they've had the opportunity to do that. Both got a tremendous amount of reps with our blue team and our white team. And then when we made the decision to start Sam, as I've told them both in the room, I want them both to prepare as starters. The plan is to have them in the plan every single week. And with regards to your specific question about Sam, he's done a good job of leading. I think that making a decision enables Sam in this particular situation to prepare as the starter and have 2 weeks to feel what it's like to be that guy. And I think he's accepted that role pretty good, and he did a good job in practice yesterday.
What did he do from a quarterback standpoint to earn the nod about a week or two ago?
Probably overall he's the most consistent quarterback that we had. He's probably throwing the ball the best right now. He does have the ability to run the football. And he's done an incredible job, I think, of learning the system. So the trick for him as a freshman is going to be to play within the system and play within his own ability and make some good decisions. And I think for either Sam or Jace, the objective this week is to manage the game and distribute the football to the athletes that we have and not try to win the game themselves. Excuse me.
Has he been more vocal since he kind of got that job?
He has a little bit. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of time, but I think a couple of them voiced that they would feel a greater comfort level being a little bit more vocal once they're in that role. And I think we're starting to see that out of Sam right now.
Mac has said, with young guys, you're probably going to need more than one guy, and, having them ready and tested for a game. Kind of what's your philosophy about, maybe using more than one quarterback in a game? I mean, would you prefer to lean on the one guy, or do you feel like you've got to have this package for another guy to get him in there?
I think that situation kind of takes care of itself, because if you have somebody playing well, you roll with them. I think there is a plan for both. Whether or not we get to that plan is going to be dictated by the game situation. I've asked them both to prepare as starters. They know that Sam will start the game, and we hope he plays well and we can use him and roll with his good play. And if not, there is a package for Jace and or the option to play Jace. So we're going to kind of let the situation dictate what we do.
How has Jace handled everything since Sam was named the blue team?
Like a pro. I mean, we had some really good character guys in the room, and they busted their tail to learn the system, and they competed, and they helped each other, they coached each other. They were, they all had a good relationship, and I think any professional backup quarterback approaching it the right way is going to prepare like the starter, which is what we really expect. They're getting equal reps, so it's not like Jace is getting less reps than Sam. So he is repping the same game plan, the same plays, the same number of plays, all of that. It's identical, their preparation. And because we want to play more than just the immediate starters at every position, it's important that those twos get those reps. So really there's nothing different other than Jace is just going to make sure that he's ready so that when his opportunity comes, he takes advantage of it.
Phil, Max said, dating back to spring ball, that one of the negatives of having three guys in the same class is the possibility that the one may decide to transfer. Were you surprised that Kane made that decision as quickly as he did?
No, I mean, I can't read their mind, but I think, this is my opportunity to say that I think the portal is not a great thing for college football. But that's just the atmosphere that we have right now, and the guys have an opportunity a little bit easier now than it was before to leave. You have three guys. In our situation, it's different if we had an established senior starter, and then we had a sophomore, and then we had a true freshman, where there's a pecking order and they all feel like there's an opportunity in the future, for them to get their opportunity and get their chance and get their, their spin at playing quarterback. But here, you've got a true freshman. You've got two redshirt freshmen. They're virtually all neck and neck and equal. And in this day and age, I just think it's hard for a number 3 quarterback to sit behind that. What I do appreciate is that Sam and Jace have taken this very, very well. They relate to each other very well, and they're both helping each other get ready for this game.
Did you name it like 1, 2, 3, or was it 1 and then Cade and Jace?
It was 1 and then Cade and Jace. And because the race was so close, there wasn't a huge difference between 1 and 3, which is a great problem to have, but you have to manage it. And we really didn't want to relegate somebody to a 3 spot because we felt like they're all good enough to play here. And so we were going to have to name a starter. I mean, it's a must at quarterback. But the other 2, we wanted to continue to give reps and allow them to compete. And, obviously some things transpired. So we're at 1 and 2 right now, and that's our plan going into South Carolina.
What do you expect to see out of South Carolina on Saturday?
I'm sorry?
What do you expect to see from South Carolina on Saturday?
Well, they're very talented. The strength of the defense is up front. Their defensive line, as I well know, I played them 4 games ago. They're exceptional, led by number 3. He's a scheme changer. You have to adapt everything that you do to a player like that. And he's got a good supporting cast with him on the D-line. There are 6 or 7 returning starters on the defense, so they have a lot of experience. 24 is 6'4", 6'5". He's tall, he's long. If he gets his hands on you, it's hard to run routes on him. So he's an issue. I think overall they match up well with us. I think the most important battle on the field is going to be our offensive line and their defensive line. That's probably the biggest matchup offensively in the game for us on Saturday.
What more do you need to see from your offense this week of practice? What are the biggest things?
What are the
biggest things?
Well, the 3 things going into Saturday and the 3 things that we're preaching and we're harping on, we've got to do a good job securing the football. There's already been some football games played, and they were really the win was dictated by turnovers. So we've got ball security is number 1 priority. I think in some of those other games also you saw some mistakes. You have those opening game mistakes, penalties, the turnovers, the miscues. Those are the things that we're trying to harp on right now. So we play a clean, consistent, smart football game where we're not putting the ball on the ground. And if we can do those 2 things, it'll go a long way to allowing us to play some successful football on the offensive side.
The center right guard situation has been kind of fluid throughout camp. Where are things right now, and what level of concern is there?
Well, Coach Searles has he's got a young line that he's working with. He's done a phenomenal job of developing them. I think Marcus McKeithen is now at that right guard spot, and we feel comfortable there. Nick Polino will start at center. And, right now I think Stacy is developing and creating some continuity. We're getting pretty stout up front now in practice. We kind of like where we're going. It's been 5 guys playing together for a while, for a week and a half now, and we've got 2 or 3 guys that Coach Searles is preparing to be, the next tackle in, the next guard in, the next center in. So that's where we are at the offensive line.
I know the goal, I know the goal was 8 guys going into the South Carolina game with 8 offensive linemen. Are you at 8 right now, you think?
I'd say we're probably at 6 or 7, and that 8th spot, we're just waiting to see maybe who has the best week of practice, and then we'll have to make a decision about who will be the next guy in that 8th spot.
What did you see from McKeithen that you've allowed him to step up?
I mean, his size helps, but if you don't execute, you don't have good footwork, you don't get your hands on people, you don't know your job, size doesn't make a difference. And, he's always been a big, strong guy. I think right now he's done a better job moving his feet. He's been a better job playing some consistent football. And, that's the thing. That's the one aspect of his play that Coach Searles has been harping on. It's just him playing consistent football and adjusting to some scenarios in our run and our pass blocking schemes. And, right now we feel like Marcus has done a great job of improving, and he'll be the starting right guard going into South Carolina.
Concerns with lack of experience in offensive line. I think Tucker has 1 start, and McKeith and Montilus haven't played any starts. What do you do to kind of help that? Or
You prep them and you go play. I mean, we've got young receivers, we've got a young O-line, we've got young quarterbacks. I can complain about it, or we can go coach them, and that's what we do. So, I mean, we've got the quarterbacks could not do more to prepare for this game than they've done. I know Coach Searles is working the O-line as hard as they can. What I do like about this group is we're mature, we're a smart group, we work hard, they have great work ethic. And, you know, those are the things that you need to get out of a young guy or a young group of guys when you're heading into a huge opening game against a team like South Carolina. So we're getting what we want in practice from these guys. How they react to the speed of the game on Saturday, we won't know until we get there.
Did you recruit Sam when you were on this?
I did. Sam and I knew each other. I knew his father, Duke. I had met him. I had been out there plenty of times. I just think the opportunity to get Sam to fly over 15 other offers to land in Oxford, Mississippi at a time when we had a 2-year bowl ban wasn't a great recruiting situation for us. So, you know, to be able to land here with North Carolina colors and go to his home and recruit him in the last hour there was kind of fun because I knew he liked the offense. We had a little bit of a relationship. And the biggest negative that I had coming from a different school was no longer there. I was coming from the in-state school, you know, the top in-state school. So that is obviously was an advantage, I think.
What piqued your interest about him as a high school player?
You know, Sam has a little bit of grit to him, you know, and he's got that it factor. He can throw the football without question. He's a big arm talent kid. Deceivingly, he's a better runner than he looks. You know, and he does a good job on that end of it. And I'm really, really impressed with, you know, him being a true freshman, how committed he is to coming in and watching film and studying the opponent and learning the game. He could draw up any run scheme against any front that you could imagine. And for a freshman to be able to do that kind of stuff is pretty impressive. Understands coverages, understands protections, and I think his role as a leader is growing now as we progress after naming him as the starter.
How much did you know about Daz before he got here? Just kind of what's maybe surprised you about him?
You know, it's been a long time since I coached out on the East Coast, over 20 years, and so I didn't have a lot of working knowledge of the North Carolina roster at all, so I really knew nothing of Daz. Now, a lot of players, as I met with them individually, shared insight on Daz. They all respect his ability. They love him as a person. So my first week, I couldn't get on the road the first week leading into my job. So, well, that's not true. The first week I recruited. The second week was Christmas to New Year's. I couldn't do anything. So Mac Brown sent us all home for Christmas, and I spent that whole week, and I tried to relive the North Carolina season. So I watched the season 3 or 4 times in order, and I watched all the games, and I tried just to get a feel for what these players had gone through the year before, just to understand what's coming back. And, you know, it didn't take long to identify Daz Newsome as a prolific, explosive talent offensively, and so we got to find a way to get him the ball in space on Saturday.
Where was it that you first encountered Mike Leach, and what kind of struck you about him and his philosophy?
Mike Leach, I met Mike Leach in '97. I drove down to a clinic when he was at Kentucky. And, you know, I spent a bunch of time. I waited till everybody was done and spent a bunch of time with him in the evening. And I just spent a few days there. I didn't have a lot of money. I slept my 4Runner, and then we headed back. But I had been kind of for 5 or 6 years looking for an offensive system that I believed in. And, you know, you do what any guy coming out of college having played. You just run and coach the system that you have. And that's what I was doing. And I was looking at BYU and Joe Tiller at Purdue and different things. And then I met Mike and Hal at Kentucky, and I spent a lot of time with Mike. And I just left there knowing that was the system that made sense to me. I could run it. I'm not very bright, so if I can run the thing, I can teach it to our players. I think it allows them to play instinctively. It gets great athletes the ball in space. It takes less learning, I think, so the learning curve is shorter and you're able to get to the real football. And we've just been kind of adapting it ever since. I think the only big difference between the diehard air raid population and what we do is that we're just going to emphasize, there's a much greater emphasis on the run game as well in this offense than maybe in the pure air raid system. Thank you, fellas. Y'all have a good afternoon.